Right, good morning and a very warm welcome to everyone, even though it's a bit wet probably. Thank you very much for attending our 40th anniversary conference, both here in person in Telford and also approximately 90 online. I particularly welcome the international participants, even though I would emphasise that this is a BEHÇET'S United Kingdom focused event. But there's massive knowledge in the UK on BEHÇET'S and our support community as a charity, and we would wish to share that support, mostly obviously via our website, medical fact sheets and so forth. Now, I need to just do some admin before we start our AGM. Just to remind people, parking is free, but you must validate your parking. So if those here present haven't done that, just do it at reception, and then you won't get a charge. Or you can scan a QR code that's on your tables and enter your car registration if you haven't done it. Toilets, you'll probably realise, are in the corridor on the right as you go out. There's no fire drills planned, so if there is an alarm, we treat it as real and basically move out of the place, probably through there. There are breaks scheduled, so please make sure your phones are turned off or muted. There are breaks scheduled, but you can take a break any time. And all I would say is that we are filming things here, so if just be aware that the cameras are over there, so as long as you sneak out the back, you won't be caught on camera, and that's fine. And just help yourself to refreshments all the day. This information is for those here that are present who are unable we're not able to see those who are attending online. The event is being live streamed, as we've done now for the last 2 years, so we reach more people, basically. And that will be put up on our website later on. The audience will not be intentionally recorded, but please consider the position of the cameras if you need to move around, as I said. And if you particularly don't want to make sure your face is shown anywhere, just make sure you chat with Gemma. Cameras will not be on during the breaks. We'll take general photos during the day, hopefully. And again, if any of you are unhappy with that, please let us know. Now, here's the programme, which is on your tables and also online on the website. You can now see what it is. And I just I was going to say here, thank you obviously to Deva and his team from Birmingham for all the hard effort they put in for this. And I'm so pleased. They got all their presentations early, so Gemma hasn't had the hassle she's sometimes had in the past, staying up all hours to sort them out, so thank you for that. And also Martin and Ian from Aston Media, who've done fantastic support for us. And then after lunch looks like this. And then finishing with the all-important Q&A at the end. And we've had some questions requested in advance, which is really helpful. Thank you for that. And for those both in here, use the bits of paper if you want, put them in the box by Alan's thing to have questions answered. And then Deva will mastermind that at the end. And encourage, obviously, online to ask questions as well. Here's some helpful advice about questions, if just have a quick read through that. Okay. And another one. In here, obviously, we need to make sure everyone's heard, so please use the microphone, wait till it's there. And those joining online are, as I said, are encouraged to post questions. And if we don't get time to answer all the questions, particularly online, as we did last year, we will get back once we've consulted clinicians about them and got an authoritative answer, so we will try to do that again this year. Okay, so that's the admin out the way. Any quick questions from anybody? All happy? Right. So we'll now have our welcome from our patron, Baroness Ritchie of Downpatrick.
Very warm welcome to the Society's important annual conference and AGM, which for the second year running is both in person and online so that we reach more members and indeed attract an audience all around the world. BEHÇET'S is no respecter of borders. I warmly welcome Dr. Deva Situnayake and the Birmingham team who are sponsoring the conference this year. I welcome and thank those clinicians and trainees joining us who may be unfamiliar with BEHÇET'S, being one of 7,000 or so rare diseases that afflict so many people. Importantly, I thank all the clinicians in the UK who routinely look after BEHÇET'S patients, primarily at the 3 centres of excellence in Liverpool, Birmingham and London, but importantly also elsewhere in England, for example in Bristol and Cambridge, to name but 2, and across the devolved nations and regions, of course. Dr. Situnayake will be briefing on the important data capture research led by Dr. Priyanka Sharanratri, which will help lead towards the establishment of a BEHÇET'S patient registry in the UK. Delegates, I would emphasise the enduring importance of capturing patient data, which has my full backing. So I encourage all members to sign up to sharing their data, which will be protected confidentially when used for important research purposes. This will benefit the whole BEHÇET'S community, and indeed I encourage volunteering to participate in research trials also. Digital transformation in health and social care is a major theme within the NHS presently to ensure digital foundations are in place, including electronic records, by March 2025. So, without further ado, I wish you a very enjoyable and profitable day, which I know will be helpful to so many people, and I hand you over now to your chair, Tony Thornburn.
Thank you, Lady Margaret, for that introduction. And can I take this opportunity on your behalf of all the members to thank you for the great support you provide as our patron. And it's quite interesting what she's flagged up there, being aware of the sort of data that she's explained it, that we feel is so important to move forward with BEHÇET'S. Okay, so first of all, we'll get our AGM out the way, and then the conference will start in full. It's about 40 minutes we've got, so there's quite a lot to get through, and I'll go through my bit as quick as I can. So, as I mentioned, this is our 40th anniversary, and I can confirm we're correct, so that's good. Now, herewith is the agenda. Which again you've got in front of you, or you can see online obviously now. And then after lunch, I thought there was a second slide. For some reason the after lunch slide isn't there, but not to worry. But we'll put that up at the start of our after lunch. Right, so my report from myself. Now, we've produced our annual report, the auditors have agreed it, and there were some technical hitches. So, in fact, that will be available on our website, and it will also be emailed to members. And obviously, there's a copy for those here at Alan's desk if you want to have a quick look through it in advance. First, I wanted to remind everybody who our trustees are, and importantly thank them on your behalf for their personal and unremunerated endeavour. Second, to thank Gemma, Deborah and Claire for the fantastic work they do in the background. It is considerable and fundamental to the operation of our great charity. Also, I must flag up the meticulous work that Alan Lane does as our honorary treasury, without which the charity would simply not function. So thank you once more, Alan, for that. I've just done a couple of slides here, really to a sort of summary of where we've got to. And I'd like to take this opportunity, as well as what's on there, to thank the BEHÇET'S Patient Centre. Unfortunately, this year, we haven't got any representation from them for various reasons. for their important contribution to the society, and principally this is done via our newsletters. I wish to thank every member who has raised valuable money this year, whether small or large. It really is important, so thank you so much for that. And Neil's going to mention more of that later. Wider visibility of our condition is achieved mainly in the virtual environment, principally by myself, together with the website and social media presence, and our all-important medical fact sheets, which have recently been updated. Thanks yet again to our supporters in those helpline and support groups. So Claire, Gibson, Yvonne Morris, Catherine O'Hara, Rachel, Funula, for all you do for us there. It's very important. Looking forward, we're keen to get this constituent relationship management system, that's what all commerce and stuff use, so we can really enhance our efficiency and make sure we cater for changes in personnel and subsequent efficient transition without stuff falling through the cracks, basically. And Gemma's done an amazing job here collating what has all gone in the past, and we don't want to lose any of it. We're aiming to establish a nurse specialist post in Scotland to help with the coordination of care up there. And hopefully that will then lead to establishing one in Wales and Northern Ireland. It's a thing we as a society are going to have to pay for, and Neil's going to mention things about fundraising in that regard. The BAD, British Association of Dermatology and Rheumatologist Society guideline is nearing completion. It's slightly delayed because of neurological input from neurologists, with a couple of retiring. This has been a bit of an issue, but hopefully that will be soon to be promulgated. I just take this opportunity to flag up a really important thing, and Baroness Ritchie talked about trials. There's the, I can never pronounce it, Situnayake trial, which has started. I would encourage people to join that, and it's vital that we get sufficient patients registered by Christmas. So that really is very important. And you can read about it in the back of the last newsletter, for those who haven't seen, and again, there's copies on Alan's desk there. Now, the next three slides are a bit busy, and I apologise for that, but you can look through them later in slower time. But I was invited to produce a brief in February 23 for the all-party parliamentary group for rare and undiagnosed conditions about my learning journey to do with patient registries. And so this was a bit of a historic summary, and you'll see I started off, after my first year and a bit in post, going around to a lot of things, coming up with the conclusion that we really need to have a patient registry, a natural history study, a PSP alliance done by James Lind Alliance to set up the research questions strategically where we should go in the future rather than just producing them in isolated silo. So from then you can read through what happened. But I'll post the full brief at some stage on our website in due course, and so you can all follow the sort of logic. And what I think is basically a pragmatic and common sense approach to what is actually a simple process, but it is very complicated for all kinds of reasons. And the second part I'll let you read there. And where it says September 22, that's Deva will explain a bit more what has gone on there. That's Priyanka's study, Dr. Chandrati, who did that. Those three acronyms in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, those are separate equivalent patient registries, but how we're going to join up the data with them, it's bad enough in our individual NHSs, so there's a real issue basically here. And what I've spent my time since I was your chair is going around and speaking with people, and I'm just not exhaustive, but these are the people who've set up registries, and I mean, cystic fibrosis is a massive one. It's international now, and from it, all kinds of benefits occur. And my conclusion is really succinct right at the end there. Now, Deva's going to talk about AI and the implications that is a bit of a theme of this conference, but you'll see it all links in. But we need a thing that's neutral for all those who are allowed to see it, with patient dynamic consent to be able to use their data for proper purposes, and I think we'll then see a massive increase in finding out what goes on with a very complex condition, which BEHÇET'S is. Finally, I'd like to thank Gemma for organising another fantastic Friend and Families Day, and I'm sorry I couldn't be present this year. Thank you to all those who turned up at what was a highly enjoyable occasion. It's really important for people within the BEHÇET'S community to get together and talk with each other and have fun. And certainly that's what happens at these. There's a lot of effort put into them. It's very difficult when people don't turn up, often for very valid reasons. They have a flare and at the last minute they can't turn up. But I really would promote these. Everyone who goes to them really enjoys them, and they're absolutely vital. So, and more details about the one for next year will be promulgated shortly. Okay, so without further ado, Alan, over to you, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's lovely to see so many people here and to see so many, or not see so many who are watching online. I'd like to say something, first of all, to those of you who are members of the Society, because this is actually your meeting. And it's nice to know that there are a lot of you. We know that everything in the world outside is going up all the time, but so are our members in quantity. Now, why should you be a member? Well, first of all, you'll get a nice welcome pack and a BEHÇET'S alert card, which is very useful. You get quarterly newsletters, you get access to our helpline, participation in local support groups or Zoom meetings, invitations to family days, as we've just heard, and free attendance at the annual conference, where you can vote on any resolutions. Sadly, we haven't got any this year. Maybe another time. Now, here's the proof that things are going up. Numbers of our members have increased every year. Not by a lot, but steadily. We are representing more and more people. Now, what about the subscription rate? Is that going up? No. Subscription rate has not gone up for 12 years. Now, can you think of anything else in the real world that you could say that about? Not a lot, I suggest. As well as the standard members, we also recognise various under 18 members, 32 in total, associates who are largely medical people and our own staff, some donors who like to give money but don't wish to be members, and there are a few at the bottom whose subscriptions are eagerly awaited, and the opportunity to pay exists at the table over there later or online. We are 1,184 patients, others awaiting diagnosis, plus supporters like myself, carers, medical staff, and 20 overseas members. That adds up to the total on our database. And now for the boring financial bit. Well, we have a general fund, and I can tell you that the total income for the last financial year, ending on the 31st of August, was £55,000. The expenditure was £66,000. The eagle eyes will already have spotted that that was a deficit which should cause the treasurer a lot of heartache. But we brought forward £155,000 at the end of the previous year. Why? Because we had, in the previous 2 years, 2 very generous bequests from former members in their wills. And so we've still got quite a bit of money in the bank carry forward. But we're not sitting on it idly. Tony has already mentioned several important projects, and the trustees have earmarked £100,000 from that balance towards the setting up of a specialist nurse for Scotland and of a patient registry for UK patients. So don't worry, we are still needing more money for the future. That's only for a start for those important projects. Where does the money come from? 2/3 of it comes from your subscriptions and donations. A significant but smaller amount from fundraising in the orange slot, and from gift aid. Again, if you don't gift aid your subscriptions, but you do pay income tax, I have a little form for that purpose as well, and that adds 25% to the value of what you give. The amount we get from the local and national government is not shown on there because it's zero, entirely self-supported. Where does the money go? We have 2 excellent part-time staff who have to be paid. That's the largest expense. Then the patient information service and newsletters, the second largest, and the annual conference. That represents 3/4 of our expenditure. There are various other odds and ends, ICT, insurance, and so on, but they're relatively small in comparison. Now, as well as that general fund, we have a research fund, which is money specifically put away to support research. And we brought forward some money on that as well. Why? Because one former member made a very large donation from will, and a number of others made smaller amounts in a matter of routine contributions. But we didn't put anything towards research last year because we're saving up from big projects this year. So that money is all carried forward. And that, in a nutshell, is the Society's finances for the last 12 months. If you would like to know the full gory detail, fortunately, I have a small number of copies of the complete accounts at the back, which are available in the break. Thank you very much, and I hand over to Neil Williams to say a little bit more about fundraising, why it's important, and how you might be able to help.
Thanks, Alan. So good morning, everybody. My name's Neil Williams. I'm one of the trustees of BEHÇET'S UK. And one of the things that I will primarily work towards is around about our strategic fundraising. And as we just heard from Alan, how important it is that we keep bringing this money in. Sorry, I've gone the wrong way there. So this year, 2023, is our anniversary year, and we're 40 years old. So we've celebrated it by doing a number of things. Firstly, we've gone through the archives and we've looked back at the Society's 40-year history. We've launched new merchandise, and that helps raise funds for the Society as well as raising awareness. There's a table over there. If anyone who's in the room wishes to purchase merchandise whilst here, we're happy to sell some of it to you. Thirdly, we've had 3 fundraising initiatives as well to mark the 40th anniversary. The first one is 40 and 40, where people have done a number of different events. There's been a Bake for BEHÇET'S and Life Begins at 40. And there's more of these fundraisers as well coming through onto our next slide. And then finally, for our 40th fundraisers, medals will be going out in the post in the next couple of weeks as a thank you. So this slide's really showing about some of the events that people have ran over the last year and some of the money that they've done. It doesn't include everybody that's raised money for us over the last year, but I really want to say it doesn't matter how much is raised, however big, however small, all of it really contributes to the Society. So thank you to you all. One of the things that I'm asking for, and I asked last year as well, so this is once again a call to arms for all members, or even people that aren't members as well. We are looking for volunteers who are able to join our fundraising subcommittee. Anybody who's got any ideas whatsoever, there's some big projects that have been mentioned by Alan and by Tony already, and there's lots of money that we're going to need to make these initiatives work. For lots of the IT, the lots of the projects that we're looking to do, this is all required, and it keeps this cost required every year. As we can see, the income we've got at the moment is we're spending more than what we're bringing through. So we really need to keep this going. I can't do this on my own. The trustees can't do this on their own. So really, anyone who wishes to spend a bit of time, as much or as little as they can, please feel free to email me. These links will be sent out online to everyone in the chat if they want to. And likewise, for everyone who's going to be inside the room, we will be sending recordings. Recordings of this will be available afterwards. So other ways that can be helped, as I say, I've always talked about the fact that we've got merchandise that's available here. We've got Christmas cards here as well. We're starting to get to, I'm not sure how many shopping days left that we've got. It won't be that long to go till Christmas, but you can join us as well. You can become a donor. As Alan's already mentioned, there's great amounts that come through from there. We've got fundraising events, similar to what's been done so far. Merchandise again. Go through our shopping partners. This is a key bit. So these three we get money out of, if you're already going online spending money, I've just mentioned Christmas as well, that percentage of that money will be given to us as a society. Payroll giving and fund matching as well. Think about those opportunities. I know lots of organisations as well do payroll giving. Donate as you sell on eBay. So if you're going through your wardrobe and you're seeing clothes and items that have been sat there for a long time, you haven't worn them and you wish to sell them on eBay, you can donate them as you sell them as well. Play the weather lottery. This is something that I've done now. I've actually won a few times. So you can see you do get money back as well as, but there's amounts of money that will come through from that. And you can fundraise on Facebook and Instagram. Buy Christmas cards as well. And send an e-card in lieu of Christmas cards. So the money that you would normally spend, I noticed that the cost of a first-class stamp's gone up this year again. Don't spend that. Send that money into BEHÇET'S. We'll welcomely receive that. And then consider leaving us as a legacy. As Alan said there, you know, there's these huge contributions that have come through in the last couple of years as part of a legacy. So anything that people are willing to leave, it makes a huge help. There's this QR code I'm going to leave on at the moment. For people online, you can scan that. I'll leave that on the screen for a bit so you can scan that and it can take you to the page of how you can get involved and help. The QR code's also on the tables here, so please feel free once again for anyone inside the room to scan that. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Rachael now, who will talk you through the Judith Buckle Award. Thank you very much.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, I do apologise, my voice is a little bit hoarse this morning. But on behalf of BEHÇET'S UK and all those affected by the condition, I very proudly present the Judith Buckle Award to two quite remarkable human beings, and that is Barry and Georgina Seaman. Barry and Georgie came across the BEHÇET'S Syndrome Society in 1985, shortly after Barry received his diagnosis of BEHÇET'S. At that time, the society had around 60 members. Barry and Georgie quickly embedded themselves into the heart of the society, Georgie becoming a trustee and the information officer, and Barry becoming the honorary secretary of the society from 1986 to 1999, becoming the treasurer from 1999 to 2004, and a trustee from 2004 to 2007. And I think between the both of you, you were with the society for around 20 to 21 years. Barry was also a trustee for the now titled National Voices during the late 90s. Together, Barry and Georgie drove the society forward, establishing the first BEHÇET'S Syndrome Society newsletters and having these produced twice a year. Barry was the newsletter editor during his time with the society, and Georgie created all the early leaflets on BEHÇET'S. For many years, Georgie single-handedly manned the telephone advice line from her home. She would spend hours every day speaking to people, offering her knowledge and advice, and was often the first person you spoke to if you were going through the diagnosis process. Now, I myself came into contact with Georgie in 2003-2004, when I was going through the diagnosis process. And I know that there will be many of you in the room and online who probably came away feeling a lot less daunted and a lot more informed. I certainly found it incredibly soothing knowing I wasn't alone in this journey and that knowledge of this condition was out there. As Richard West says, Georgie's help and advice really changed people's lives, and if it weren't for her, he doesn't know where he'd be. She had knowledge of all the specialists and insisted that you see someone who knew about BEHÇET'S, often signposting you and strongly advising, or in my case, telling me, that I had to seek the specialist support that I needed and deserved. Getting people that expert care was extremely important. Georgie was then accompanied by Ruth Pierce and Karen Tomlinson on the advice line, continuing to work tirelessly to provide information and support, and even set up the first helpline referral system, referring patients to clinics establishing or set up with a multidisciplinary team. The advice line is still an invaluable source of information and signposting to this day. To put the advice line into context, In September's 1997 newsletter, a lady called Bridget McCrory wrote, "To all the ladies who helped me when I was very depressed, I don't know what I would have done without you. Through you, I was put in touch with a good doctor. Through you, I realised I wasn't alone. It is great to have someone listen and try to help. Thank you so much. You don't realise what a lifeline you are to people like me." To Georgina Seaman, Ruth Pearce and Karen Tomlinson, a big and overdue thank you. As if manning the helpline wasn't enough, Georgie set about creating the Society's website. By 2002, there were over 1,450 members of the Society. She also identified expert speakers for the Society's AGM, inviting them to share their expertise with those most in need, the patients. Georgie and Barry also added international travel to their credentials within the Society, going to the international conferences on BEHÇET'S disease in America, France, Tunisia, Italy, Korea, which the Society helped to organise, Germany, which the Society also helped to organise, Portugal and Austria. And Barry accompanied her in a personal and individual capacity. I can just imagine the passport stamps. Georgie also attended the inaugural Patients' Conference in Japan. It was at this conference that the date for BEHÇET'S Awareness Day of May the 20th was set, along with aims to identify the origin of BEHÇET'S, establish treatments, provide equal access to treatments, and increase understanding. Barry also helped to organise the second and third international patient conferences as well. Each international conference served a purpose: to increase knowledge and network with those at the forefront of BEHÇET'S care and bring that knowledge back to the UK. Sometimes their travel wasn't quite so glamorous. Richard recounts them having to hold their society meetings at Leicester Hospital, as Ruth Pearce was the chair at that time, and chaired the meetings in one of the rooms on the ward for the elderly. I'm sure they will remember trekking over to Leicester for a meeting and being caught out by snow. It took several hours for them to get home, keeping everything crossed that they wouldn't get snowed in. Barry always wanted a specialist centre. It was his vision to see patients receive that expert care. He really started the conversation on having a multidisciplinary team approach to BEHÇET'S, a vision which Jan Mather took forward when she became chair in 2006. This vision came to fruition with the establishment of the 3 Centres of Excellence in Birmingham, Liverpool and London. Barry and Georgie are described as professional, organised, dedicated, enthusiastic, devoted individuals who have helped hundreds and hundreds of people during their time with the Society. The Judith Buckle Award goes to Barry and Georgie Seaman.
Good morning, everyone. Rachael, thank you so much for that. Well, I didn't realise how much we'd done. How nice of you. Georgie and I can remember Judith very well, and we worked with her to help the Society in those very early years. And she was a lady with tremendous tenacity. And it was quite a meeting when Georgie, who also has a lot of tenacity, met Judith. But Judith and Georgie had the vision that the Society had got lots to do to increase its coverage and increase its capacity to help people. And it's very heartening for us to see just how established and professional the Society is, because in those early days, as my friend Richard will agree, it was quite tough and there were battles to be fought. But fortunately, progress was made everywhere that was needed. It just took a long time. We thank you very much for this award. It's mainly Georgie, I have to tell you. She's put in enormous hours and a lot of dedication, and thank you for acknowledging that she helped a lot of people. Thank you.
So I'm going to hand over to Tony, who is going to present the BEHÇET'S UK Members Award.
Thank you, Rachel. And thank you, Barry and Georgie. Right. I'll just remind you what lies behind the award. And you'll recall that last year was the first occasion we... we started it. Nominations for 2024 are open, and the link can be found on our homepage. And so this is your opportunity as members to ensure your peers are recognised. And I announce this year's winner is Claire Gibson. Now, Claire's been a member since 2014. She reckons she had BEHÇET'S for about 20 years, diagnosed in 2012. You'll have seen her articles in newsletter 51, the spring edition of 20, and she wrote an article on your BEHÇET'S story in March 21. Claire's been described as an inspiration of positivity. And as Claire mentions in one of her articles, her inspiration was part triggered by reading Man Down, and that was written by a Royal Marine commander who had lost an arm and both legs above the knee. Now, Claire is characterised not by the loss of what she used to do, but by embracing what she can do now. When she makes a commitment, she does not only stick to it, she actually excels it. And I'll just give you one example. On the 2020 Bike for BEHÇET'S and Run for Rare, she set a target of 452 kilometres, and lo and behold, she completed 904. But it's what she has been doing for others that is what this is all about. She never lets, and I quote things such as, she never lets others down. Not only did she support others when attending the London COE, which she eventually got to, but she volunteered to set up a support group, first designated the North Thames group, but now subsequently the England support group. And comments received, not exhaustive, like she has great listening skills. She's very calm, level-headed, works to achieve the best outcomes for people. Claire has fantastic empathy for others and will go out of her way to help other people and support them. And she is now, of course, the face of BEHÇET'S UK, representing GB in the recent Invictus Games, where she won 3 gold and 2 silver medals, and I only mentioned one in the newsletter. And that comment I made about being so supportive to others was epitomised during those games by her when she literally fired up apparently the whole of the stadium to support a fellow athlete called Rola from Jordan and to assist her complete a race. So that's only a brief summary, and to be honest, it's inadequate. But anyway, now Claire Gibson couldn't be present today. She was really torn, but she has to attend the Invictus Games homecoming celebration in Alton Towers today. So I hope she has a fantastic day. And she'll probably be hopefully listening in and hearing this. So I will just play a very brief response from Claire and then ask a military colleague and friend of hers, Peter McAllister, to accept the award on her behalf.
Hello, Claire here. I'm really sorry I can't be there with you in person today. It's an absolute honour to have been nominated for the BEHÇET'S UK Members Award this year and to know that my contribution to the charity is making a difference.
Right, now, we're ahead of time. That's good. Thumbs up, always like that. So, have we got any immediate questions from any elaboration on anything that any of us have said so far? Reference to society, all happy? Yes, Deva. Let's just get the microphone to you.
It's not a question, Tony. It's just a comment from one of the clinicians at the Centres of Excellence. And I think I've got tremendous admiration for BEHÇET'S UK. I mean, I've not worked with them since their inception, obviously. I've been only associated with it, the charity, since the centres were, conceived and then developed. But it's quite clear to me that your members and your leadership and everybody else who's involved with it they've just had tremendous vision and dedication and commitment to do something that is tremendously difficult. I mean, it's bad enough trying to do things in the health service, but to be able to do it out there in the real world and make things happen, it's just awe-inspiring. And to hear of these 2 awards, especially the earlier description of you 2 over there, what you've done, that is just absolutely unbelievable. You've got our absolute respect for carrying on doing this. And obviously it's like a legacy, isn't it? It's a journey we're all on together. Who knows what we can all achieve together with us working in this way. So long may it continue.
Well, thank you, Deva, for those comments. And I've spent a lot of time with other groups online. One of the benefits, funny enough, of COVID, actually, ironically, because it just costs too much to travel around. And the whole team approach to BEHÇET'S with the Centre of Excellence, but also, importantly, as Baroness Margaret Ritchie mentioned, other clinicians throughout the country. And I think your theme of your conference, which you suggested, this whole business data, is going to be illuminating for everybody to see where we're going. It's advancing so quickly. But I'd home back on the point you talked about, really the team effort that is involved in all of this. And I attend a weekly resilience course with 6 other ladies who are sort of help other charities. And this was set up by Genetic Alliance UK. Because they picked up that people who lead charities actually, and particularly the very small ones, are really under a lot of pressure and strain. And it's really 2 men and women and their dogs sort of thing, and it's really very difficult. And so I hear exactly what you say, and it really is very difficult. But I'm convinced that if we can act in a sort of corporate way, we can set a strategic roadmap for what research ought to be conducted, rather than the isolated silo that tends to go on now. But that's not the fault of individuals in the system. It's the way the system has been for 200 years, the way medical research is done, the way it is funded, and all the rest of that stuff. And so we have to work within that and with all our partners. But thank you for those kind words. Any others? No? Great. Okay. Now, so just remind me, do we have a break first? Straight on with Deva, yeah? Right. So the announcement of the conference, over to you.
Okay, so as Tony said, a big warm welcome to everybody here in the room and also online. I know that a lot of us have had a few difficulties maybe getting here. I know for one yesterday it was a bit of a touch and go moment, whether I get here from Wales. So we have a really great lineup of speakers this morning. So to introduce the BEHÇET'S UK 2023 conference, I welcome Dr. Deva Situnayake. Have I said that right? Lead clinician at the BEHÇET'S Centre of Excellence in Birmingham.
Thank you. Right. So, as I've already said, it's a great privilege to be here. I mean, our turn, obviously, but as Birmingham has come round yet again to organise the programme, and it's always a bit stressful thinking, well, what on earth am I going to say, and which team members shall we include, and so on and so forth. But when I was thinking about this, I was on holiday, on a family holiday, and I'd had the invite, and obviously my family were with me, and I have it's unique for me to have a meeting in which I've invited my son to talk at the meeting. But Daniel and I have had some deep conversations over the years, ever since he was very little, in various pubs and places up and down the country. And he's, as you'll find out, very interested in artificial intelligence. He's a coder, an engineer working in America. And so we have this challenge that we have together as patients and doctors of trying to understand the data that is emerging, both from the research in BEHÇET'S and what we actually see in clinic every day with our patients. And as a clinician, it's just amazing, as a challenge to try and understand that, individual patient journeys and so forth. So I've invited Daniel to help us to understand the technical side of how we actually do machine learning and artificial intelligence, because the rate of growth in that field is absolutely amazing. And we're lucky in Birmingham as well to have Alistair Denniston, who is an ophthalmologist and did work in our BEHÇET'S team at one stage, but he's developed a deep enthusiasm for artificial intelligence and ML, and has published papers in Nature very recently about that, looking in the eye and then predicting what will happen to patients in the future. So I hoped Alistair would be able to talk for us today to tell us a little bit about that, but also something else that he's been interested in making sure that there's adequate safeguarding in the way that we use AI and ML, because it's only as good as the data that goes into it. So I'll leave it at that. But unfortunately, Alistair couldn't be with us, so he's delegated it to an excellent trainee, Anmol, who works in Cambridge and who is involved with the research, so we should hear from him. So we've got Sri, our amazing ophthalmologist, who is like the human equivalent of an AI when he looks in the eye. And he does stuff that we're trying to teach the AIs to do. And he's accumulated and collated all our data in Birmingham, and you're going to hear from him a little bit about what we've learned and the challenges of treating patients with BEHÇET'S, which obviously, as you know, affects the eye quite commonly. Eslam isn't here just yet, but Eslam El-Abadi is a pediatric rheumatologist who works at the Children's Hospital, and we do a clinic together, and I've got enormous respect for him. It's so difficult managing with a child who's got BEHÇET'S and the family and sorting out the things that go on in between. And I've got tremendous respect for the way that he leads that and does that. So we're hearing from him particularly about those challenges, and in particular so-called monogenic mimics in BEHÇET'S disease, something that looks like BEHÇET'S, but when we deep dive into the mechanisms, we find that there is a genetic and molecular explanation for why they get that condition. Okay, and there's a lot to learn from that. Graham, of course, sitting on that table over there, needs no introduction. He's had a deep and long-standing relationship with the society, sits on all the committees. He's a major force in world BEHÇET'S research, and we're lucky to have him in Birmingham. And I'm lucky to get to go to the pub with Graham frequently, where we have some interesting conversations with huge numbers of ideas, some of which emerge and then we actually do. Not all of them, but it's a fantastic thing to be able to do that with Graham. So I'm looking forward to hearing his talk, which is an update about the science. And then we have Jonathan, who's also on that table over there. Jonathan, put your hand up, Jonathan, is a clinical psychologist, and he's going to talk about the journey for BEHÇET'S, but perhaps more on a qualitative side, which is the journey that you go on as a patient. And he's going to use metaphors as a guide to how that happens. So I'm really interested to hear about that, because I haven't heard him talk about that before. So thank you, Jonathan. And then finally, I'll share with you some of the things that we've learned in Birmingham through observation and our conversations, but also with the help of Priyanka and all of my colleagues and the grants from BEHÇET'S UK that we've had in mining all the data that exists in the primary care data sets and in the hospital episode statistics in England. So I'll share with you some of that. But to set the scene for the afternoon, I've put up a slide that I have, I think, used before at one of these meetings. And I'm quite interested in physics and the way that things happen and determinism and all of that. And the team over there are laughing because we spend some time on those things when we start our MDT in the morning every Friday in our clinic. But I've learned a lot through that. And I'd like you to think of this as an analogy for BEHÇET'S. So imagine yourself sitting out there, you're in a Himalayan region where there's the thawing and the melting of mountain glaciers, and then the water coming down from the mountains, going through these tributaries and streams and forming patterns that you can see there on the right. And obviously, each year and each season that happens, those streams go in slightly different directions. Why is that? What makes that happen? And obviously, when we think about that, it's random events, but there's also the structure, the sand and the soil and the patterns that are there that guide those streams and tributaries to go. And it's a bit like that when someone gets BEHÇET'S, and they start the journey, and then a particular organ or a problem emerges, and then another. And then when we look at all the patients overall and look at those journeys, we find that groups of things cluster together. They don't all seem to happen at random. And when they've happened once, they tend to happen again and again, always in the same place. So what is the reason for that? And that's one of the things that the data will help, the big data will help us to understand, but also the molecular and the genetic data and an emerging area, epigenetics, that is actually equivalent to the soil there, that determines the interaction between the environment that surrounds us and we interact with, and our genes that makes things happen at a cellular and a system level. So that's a sort of deep reason why I've chosen data for the theme of the meeting today. And I'm looking forward really to hearing from all my colleagues about their contribution to that discussion that we can all have together. So thank you. So is there a gap now between our next session? One more slide. Okay, yes, so so time for a short comfort break for everybody. And thank you for everybody online who's joined in. And I think there's a mechanism for you to feed in your questions. And for those in the room, please aim to be seated by 11:40. So we've got 20 minutes. Thank you very much, everybody.